Hey there, true crime friends. We are wrapping up Deadly Dentist Week with the deadliest dentist you've ever heard of. Also, the craziest story I'd ever seen in my life. Today, we are going international. Well, I'm going to tell this story with my pinkies out. So, welcome to Lunchtime True Crime. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's learn more about Collin. So, look. Collin, over there in Scotland, was a nice dentist, had a nice practice. He had a wife, 7 kids. Everything was going good for them. And then he was very religious, very devout, which we appreciate that. We want the dentist to say like a nice prayer or whatever for they floss our teeth and pray they don't find cavities. He was over there at the church and he met a Sunday school teacher named Hazel Stewart. Hey, Hazel, how you doing, girl? Teaching the little kids. Isn't that lovely? And so Collin started looking at Hazel real hard like, maybe you can come and teach me some Sunday school. Collin had a wife named Leslie and 7 kids. That's a lot of kids. But he was like, honey, you go sit in the pew. I'm going to go talk to this nice Sunday school teacher and possibly get her phone number for later Bible study, etc. So they started doing their Bible study, aka having an affair. And everybody was just like, they spending a lot of time together. And Hazel was like, I feel so guilty. I should not be cheating on my very nice husband. After all, he is a policeman and possibly he could pop a cap in your ass. But I feel so guilty. Ooh, that thing you're doing feels so good. Never mind, my guilt just flew right out of my head. But Hazel was nervous, right? She had the appropriate amount of guilt, which if you cheat on your very nice policeman husband, you probably should feel guilty about that, especially if you met your boo at the church. Come on now, y'all trying to go to hell real hard. Anyway, so they're having an affair. Hazel's feeling very guilty, but the more they got together and did the marital congress, I guess the more they fornicated or adulterated or whatever, she was like, I'm feeling less and less guilty. They spent more and more time together. And so she just started hanging out at the dentist's office. Ma'am, you went from guilt to just full out harlotry, just like 1, 2, 3, just like that. Okay. So everybody in town was like, you see this heifer over here at the dentist's office, right? She's always at the dentist's office. So she's over there. And they dabbling in the laughing gas. They getting it in the dental chair. Who wants to sit in that chair now? Like, it needs to be wiped down and Lysol and everything. Ew, y'all nasty. Anyway, so finally they were like, we should be together, right? And Hazel was like, well, I am married and you do have 7 kids with your wife. And Collin, our friendly neighborhood dentist, told her, oh, this is God's plan. Pro tip. If you're having an affair and you got 7 kids and your partner has 2 kids, even if you have no kids, that's not God's plan. Call me crazy. I'm radical in my beliefs, but something tells me God ain't send you somebody else's spouse for you to do the oochie coochie with, but okay, whatever. So he's like, this is God's plan. That is the reason that we are over here adulterating, fornicating, doing the whatever. So, Collin was like, I know what's going to make this better. Hazel, don't you worry about it. I'm going to help assuage your guilt. What we need to do is to kill our respective partners. And Hazel was like, I'm sorry, what? So I was feeling guilty about the adultery. Something tells me if I unalive my partner, that's not going to go good for me when I get to the pearly gates. St. Peter's not going to have my name on the list. I don't want no parts of that. Meanwhile, the priest was like, listen, y'all, come here. Miss Sunday school teacher. I noticed you've been over here getting it in with the local dentist. We know you don't have that many cavities. I've seen your teeth. And while they are not good because you are still in the UK, ma'am, no, thank you. And so they were like, right. We're going to stop fornicating. And so the priest was like, great, go ahead and be blessed or whatever they say. Only they didn't stop. So the priest was like, you have left me no choice. And he told their respective spouses. Their spouses were like, what? I thought you were getting root canal. You mean he's over there rooting your canal? And she was like, I'm so sorry. And so they were like, okay, we're both going to go to marriage counseling. You with your spouse, me with my spouse, and we're going to get back on the straight and narrow. But before too long, the call of the wild. They were back over there. I mean, they hit it a little better when they got back together, but not that much better. So Collin was like, look, I told you, if we kill our spouses the way the Lord intended, then we can be together. And so they were like, okay. So Collin gathered up some nice sedative drugs because he's a dentist. He had all the access, and he fed some sleeping pills to his wife and gave some to Hazel. She fed sleeping pills to her husband. And then Collin rigged up a whole situation where he could run a garden hose from the tailpipe of the car to his wife or whatever. And he asphyxiated her with the carbon monoxide from the car. And then he scooped up his wife. And apparently, while he was trying to unalive her, she woke up. And he was like, oh, well, this is inconvenient. So he put a pillow over her face and suffocated her. Sir, I'm telling you, God ain't tell you to do this. That might have been the devil, but it was not God. So scooped her up and put her in the trunk of his car. Like a dead Labrador, sir. So meanwhile, he goes over to Hazel's like, hey, Hazel girl, listen, is your husband drugged yet? And she's like, yeah, I drugged him, but I don't know how I feel about all this. He's like, don't worry about it. I have this garden hose. I brought my hose. So he hooks up the garden hose to the tailpipe of his car. Again, he pulls his car into the garage, hooks the garden hose up from the tailpipe of his car, runs it all the way upstairs to where Hazel's husband was sleeping, and puts the garden hose in his mouth, the other end in his mouth. So this gentleman is unalive from carbon monoxide poison, only he also woke up. This dentist, Collin, was like, I am bad at unaliving. Okay, so, but the dude had already had a lot of poison. He was already groggy from the sleeping pills. And Collin was like, smothering people is hard work. So, of course, you know, he powered through. Did the Lord help him? I think that was the devil. Anyway, so he unalived his girlfriend's husband as well, Trevor. So Trevor's dead, Leslie's dead. There's 9 kids between them. That's a lot of kids. And so he was like, okay, if you'll help, get the feet, baby. We're going to put him in the car. So they put him in the car, drive the car out to the edge of town. Now listen, Collin thought ahead. When he unalived his wife and threw her behind in the trunk, he went around the house and gathered up all the framed pictures of the kids. He got a cassette player, because this was the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Got a cassette player and some headphones. Cassette player with his wife's favorite songs on it. He just left his wife there in the trunk. Rude. Scattered all the pictures around her, positioned her as though she was looking at the pictures, put the earphones on her ears, pressed play on the tape player so that it looked like she was listening to her favorite songs, and then left the car out there in the wilderness for it to be found. The next morning, these two mamalukes get up, and Collin calls the cops and it's like, my wife is missing. I don't know what happened. And Hazel calls the cops and it's like, my husband's missing. I don't know what happened. And the cops come and they investigate and they're like, oh, this is terrible. They unalived themselves. They must have had a pact because they had broken hearts. And Hazel was like, okay, cool. Can I go back to teaching Sunday school? And the cops were like, yes, please go about your regular life. I'm so sorry for your loss. And the priest was like, nah. What you're not going to do is fornicate, cause your spouse to be depressed, and then unalive themselves. That's not a good example. And she's like, oh, I could turn this into a lesson about faith and forgiveness. And the priest was like, nah, bish, nah, you can't, So they both got kicked out of church. And Hazel was like, I feel terribly guilty. Collin, I'm starting to think that maybe this was not God's plans. And he's like, shh. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Just, go on. So, she was just like, okay, I feel terrible. Anyway, so, they continued their affair. And so people around town was like, aren't those the two who forced their spouses to unalive themselves? Nah, the police were suspicious. The townspeople were suspicious, but nobody had evidence. Meanwhile, Collin and Hazel carried on their affair, but it was not the same. Collin had 7 kids to deal with. And he was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of work. I had not anticipated that I would be forced to take care of my own children if I unalive my poor wife. And so he was just like, I'm under a lot of stress. And Hazel was like, the guilt is getting me down. So they broke up. Can you imagine? You go through all this trouble, all this hassle. Now you're going to burn in Hades forever and ever. And you don't even end up with your boo. Also, if you know a man is discomfortable with murder, how do you trust him? Girl, nah. So for a little while, they continued to do their thing, and they had Hazel had to take more and more drugs in order to be with this man. But ultimately, she was like, even with the drugs, the guilt is breaking through. Ma'am, that might have been a higher power. That was God telling you, like, girl, nah, because that's how God talks. He like, bitch, nah. Leave that formerly married man alone who unalived his wife. So Hazel was like, I can't do this. I'm going to go find me a new man. And Collin was like, well, if you think I'm going to raise these 7 kids by myself? No, thank you. So, I put my hand down at the side of my chair. My dog started licking my hand. Scared me half to death. Anyway, so Collin goes and meets another woman. Both of them marry other partners and have other children and go on with their lives. And I was like, is that how this story ends? They just unalive. They just out here in these streets, unaliving their partners, and they just get to go on with their happy lives. Well, a couple years go by, and Collin, who is really, really good at making very, very bad decisions, falls into a get-rich-quick scheme and loses a whole bunch of money. And he's like, dang, honey, new wife that I did not unalive, I got to tell you something. I have a confession to make. And she's like, yes, my love. Look, while she's holding their new baby, because you know he kept having kids with the new wife. They had been married for several years. He fell into a get-rich-quick scheme, and he was like, I have lost all of our money. And she's like, I'm sorry, what now? You did what? I love you, and I understand. We're going to have to work through this. It's a problem, but we're going to have to work through this. And he was just like, right, okay, we're going to work through this. And so then his adult son, now the kids he had from that first marriage, they're grown now because years and years have gone by. One of his sons is on holiday someplace far away in Russia, falls down a flight of stairs and dies. And so Collin is like, oh no, first I lost all my money. Now my child dies. This might be God getting back at me. I should probably confess. So he confesses to his wife. What do you think this new wife said? Can you imagine? You sitting there on the bed, you having your evening cup of coffee or martini or whatever you have. Hang on. And your husband is like, I got to tell you something. I killed my first wife. And this is how it happened. And my girlfriend, she killed her husband. We was going to be together. And he rolls out the whole story. And the wife is like, right. Okay, ma'am, second wife, child, how was you not at the police station immediately? But she was like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep your secret because, you know, love, honor, and keep the secrets. I think that's how vows work. Unclear. So he was just like, okay. Also, other little thing. And she's like, oh, Jesus, what now? He was like, because I lost so much money, I've been committing fraud and I've been charging my patients for procedures that they don't need or don't want. And so I've been trying to make the money back, but it's not working out good. And she was like, you're going to need to go to police because really, you can't keep coming in here confessing things. I'm over here trying to make a shepherd's pie and you over here just coming here with all these stories and craziness and madness. And he was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go to the police. Police, I gotta tell you something. I unalived my first wife and I cheated my patients out of money. And the cops were like, well, let me grab a pencil. Hang on. Say more. So then he was like, okay, and my son died, and I think that was the Lord getting back at me. And they were like, yeah, probably, because clearly you're a sinner and a terrible person. And he was like, there's a couple of other things that I should tell you that I've never told anybody. And his wife was like, I can't, this is some bull. Okay. What else did you do? He was like, I was also intimately assaulting some of my patients while they were under the influence. And the police were like, okay, so let's just go get the handcuffs. Let's just go get the handcuffs. We're going to put you in a nice cell right now and let you relax. And please stop talking because we can't take no more of your confession. You just confessed to basically every crime we have available. And we're going to need new reams of paper. So while we get more reams of paper to write down the rest of your crimes, is there anybody else that you want to implicate in your murder? He was like, oh, yeah, my girlfriend had my ex, Hazel. My ex Oochie Coochie partner, yeah, she unalived her husband too. We worked on it together. Let me give you all the details and the plans and the structure of how it all broke down. So he broke down the whole case. And the cops were like, okay, please enjoy your prison cell. We're going to go pick up your ex-girlfriend, Hazel. They go over to Hazel. Hazel, hey girl, how you doing? How you doing? Oh, look, you have 2 older children and a bunch of new kids with your new husband. Great. Listen, you have the right to remain silent. She was like, what? I am a good church-going woman. I would never. And they were like, right. Collin, your boyfriend, the dentist, he gave up the whole game. And she was like, well, what happened was, they were like, Tell it to the judge. So they put Hazel on trial. They put Collin on trial. And Hazel was like, I was terrified of Collin. I did not want to do these things. You see, I have led a good and faithful life since that time. And the cops are like, tell us how you were powerless to stop the poisoning and the suffocation and the gassing of your husband. And she was like, he was scary. And also he had the good drugs and he was good with, my nether regions. And they were like, right. LWAP. Only they don't have LWAP over there. They don't do life without the possibility of parole. They do life with a minimum of 18 years. And she was like, but I have kids at the house. And they were like, yeah, so did Trevor when you killed him. And she was like, oh, forgot about that part. Okay, so she went off to prison and Collin was like, hi, I would like to confess. Bless me, police officers, for I've committed every crime of known to man, and here they all are. Just please send me to jail. And they were like, great. So you also get life with the possibility of parole after 21 years. And he was like, please and thank you. I hope my run of bad luck stops. And so they both got locked up and went to prison forever, ever. So now they're over there in the UK, if they are still alive, unclear if they are or not, all locked up. A happy ending, I guess. It's like a whole bunch of kids with parents who are now in jail. Collin 7 from the original wife that he killed, and the 2 or 3 that he had with the new wife. Leslie's 2 kids from her first husband that she killed, and then however many kids she had with their second life. All these people are going to hell with gasoline draws on. That's all I got to say. I'm like, y'all just wrong. The Lord did not tell you to murder these people. What are you, nuts? Okay, look, that is your lunchtime true crime. Now go. Put your fork down, wash your dishes. Your mother does not live here. You got to clean up your area. You have a great week, and I will see you on Monday for more lunchtime true crime. Bye-bye.